The flashing red and blue lights lit up the dark road as a decorated black army officer pulled over, confused but calm. He had done nothing wrong. Yet, within seconds, what should have been a routine traffic stop turned into something far more disturbing. A white police officer, aggressive and hostile, pulled out her gun, pointing it straight at him. Her voice was sharp, her commands harsh, but the soldier held his composure. He asked questions, trying to understand why he was being treated like a criminal, but she wasn't interested in explanations, just control. What happened next was caught on camera, and the footage quickly went viral, sparking national outrage. People demanded justice, and the department had no choice but to act fast. In an instant, her fate was sealed. But what exactly led to this shocking encounter? And how did justice unfold? Let's break it all down. The soldier remained seated, hands visible, his voice steady but firm. "What's going on, officer?" he asked. But instead of an answer, the officer's grip on the gun tightened. Her expression was a mix of frustration and something else. Fear, authority. The tension in the air was thick. Bystanders in nearby cars watched in disbelief, some quickly pulling out their phones to record. The officer barked orders, demanding he step out, yet offered no reason for the stop. Her tone was aggressive, her body language confrontational. But he wasn't just any driver. He was a senior army officer, trained to handle pressure. He knew his rights, but he also knew that in moments like these, things could go horribly wrong. Meanwhile, inside the police station, radio chatter filled the air. Other officers were listening in, unsure how this would play out. Would backup arrive in time? Or would the situation take a turn no one could undo? The officer's voice grew sharper. "Get out of the car, now," she shouted, her gun still locked on him. The soldier took a slow breath. He knew making the wrong move could escalate things. His uniform, his service, none of it seemed to matter to her. But why? Was it fear? Was it bias? The weight of the moment pressed down on both of them, but only one had the power to pull the trigger. More drivers had stopped, their phone cameras rolling. The flashing lights bounced off their windshields, illuminating the officer's tense face. Another squad car approached in the distance, sirens wailing, but it wasn't clear if that would help or make things worse. Inside the police department, a dispatcher recognized a soldier's name. "Wait, that's a ranking officer," she muttered, alarmed. Meanwhile, the officer on scene had no idea that every second of his encounter would soon be replayed across the nation, sparking a firestorm no one could ignore. The soldier kept his hands still, his heart pounding, but his face remained calm. He had been in tense situations before, but this was different. This was home. This was supposed to be safe. Yet here he was, staring down the barrel of a gun, unsure if the next moment would be his last. The officer's breathing was heavy, her fingers twitching slightly on the trigger. "Step out of the car," she barked again, but something in her voice wavered. Was she realizing who she was dealing with? Or was she losing control of the situation? The second police car finally arrived, screeching to a halt. Another officer stepped out, his eyes widening as he recognized a soldier. "Hold on," he shouted, rushing forward. But before he could reach them, a sudden movement made the first officer flinch. Her grip tightened, a fraction of a second, a decision that couldn't be undone. And then, everything changed. Just as the officer's finger tensed on the trigger, the other cop lunged forward. "Stop," he shouted, grabbing her arm. The sudden jolt made her stumble, her gun shifting away for just a moment. The soldier remained frozen, his breath steady but his mind racing. In that split second, everything could have changed. The officer yanked her arm away, eyes burning with anger. "Stay out of this," she snapped, but the second officer wasn't backing down. "Do you even know who you're pointing that gun at?" he asked, his voice low but firm. She hesitated, the reality beginning to sink in. The badge on the soldier's chest, the calm authority in his eyes. This wasn't some random suspect. Then, another voice cut through the chaos. A bystander had stepped forward, phone still recording. "It's too late," they said. "The whole world just saw what you did." The officer's face paled. She wasn't just losing control of the situation, she was losing everything. The officer's hand trembled as the weight of the moment pressed down on her. The bystanders, the second officer, the flashing lights, it all closed in like a trap she couldn't escape. The soldier, still calm, finally spoke. "You need to think about what you're doing," he said, his voice steady, "because the world is watching." A radio crackled inside the squad car. "Stand down. Now." It was coming from the station. Someone higher up had seen the live footage circulating online. The second officer took a step closer. "You don't want to make this worse," he warned. She blinked, her mind racing. Then, with a deep breath, she slowly lowered her weapon. Just when it seemed like the nightmare was over, another voice rang out. "Ma'am, I need you to hand me your badge." A senior officer had arrived. The stunned look on her face said it all. In a matter of minutes, her career had unraveled before her eyes. But the biggest shock was still to come. The soldier she had just threatened had connections at the highest levels. Justice was only getting started. The officer stood frozen, her badge now in someone else's hands. The reality of her actions hit her all at once. There was no undoing what had happened. The soldier watched in silence, his composure never breaking. He had faced countless challenges in his service, but this moment felt different. This was supposed to be home, a country he had defended, yet he had been treated like a threat. As the scene unfolded, news of the incident spread fast. The department issued a swift statement, distancing itself from the officer's actions. Accountability was coming, and she knew it. Meanwhile, the soldier quietly walked away, his dignity intact. He didn't need to fight. Justice was already at work. The video continued to circulate, sparking conversations nationwide. For some, it was a reminder of the reality many still face. But for others, it was proof that the truth always comes to light.